Men in Black.
Men in Black,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
No, not me.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Art Success with me, Adelaide Damoah. Today I'm not in my usual setting. I'm not in my studio. I'm actually in Montmartre in Paris at the studio of the lovely Evans Mbugua. Evans is taking part in a show called Style Fusion at the Gallery of African Art in London with Àsìkò. Now, I've also interviewed Àsìkò, so you can see his interviews as well. Evans graduated in 2005 with a degree in print design at the Art School of Pau in the south of France. And Evans's work, if you go to the exhibition, is really stunning work, and it's a combination of print and portraiture. That's the only way that I can describe it. It's very unique. You will see as you continue to watch the video, or if you go down to the gallery and take a look. So for now, let's see what he had to say. At the moment, would you say that you're working full-time as an artist?
Yes, since 2013.
Yes.
I've been working full-time as an artist.
And you're represented, you've got Gallery of African Art at the moment. Is there anyone else?
I am working with an independent gallerist in Paris, Olivier Sultan. I'm part of Gallery KO21 in Paris.
And how did those relationships come about? Let's start with Gallery of African Art.
Oh, Gallery of African Art. That's a very me story, because one day I just, woke up and I told my wife, I think I want to go to London and show my work. So I took some pieces with me, checked into London, walked around. I knew where I wanted to go, so I knocked on the door. It was actually closed, but there was someone inside, so I still insisted a bit more. They opened, and I showed them my work, and they just instantly fell in love with it. And they, I'm talking about, I left Paris in the morning, and I had my ticket to come back in the evening. I was like, I'm going for the day. I'm not even going to spend the night. And I came back with a contract from Gallery of African
Just like
Art.
that?
Just like that, yeah.
And did you speak directly to Mrs. Cooper?
Mrs. Cooper wasn't there. Yeah. I met Michelle.
Okay.
And then she told me, okay, just come back in an hour's time. No, she first told me, can you come back tomorrow? And I told her, no, I'm leaving this evening. So she told me, okay, try and come back in an hour's time. Please come back in So I was like, okay, fine, I'm still around. I was exhausted. I was tired. So anyway, I just waited. I went to some coffee shop, blah, blah, blah. And I went to the Camden Art Center, where I went to see Dororo's show. I wanted to see that. You have textile and you have stuff like that. That was really fun. So I came back and I met Mrs. Cooper. And she was like, okay, fine, cool.
That's incredible.
But she'd actually seen my work somewhere, because I'd taken part in an auction show in Paris some months before, or is it weeks before? And my work had actually really well, so she knew she'd seen what she had in front of her eyes somewhere, but she couldn't pinpoint. So I mentioned that, and she was like, yeah, of course, I saw your work there. And I liked it, so it was just as simple as that. But, that's really the story of my life. Coming to France was just the same thing, just seated with my mom and dad. And they're like, okay, so do you want to go to France? I was like, yeah, why not? Yeah, whatever. So I find myself in Air France, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't understand anything. I find myself in France, and I couldn't understand anything. For weeks on end, I had headaches because I couldn't understand anything. But it was so much fun. And, after some time, I was listening to the radio. I think that was like 2 months later, and I burst out laughing. And I was like, oh my God, I understood something. And it's just as simple as that.
Wow. Okay, so how did the relationships with the two galleries in Paris, how did they happen?
How did that happen? The first one, it's an artist friend. he came to my place and he was, we're just chatting, and he was like, yeah, I think you could be part of this gallery. So he presented me to the gallery, and then that worked out that way. And the second one, I think he'd seen my work in several places in Paris, and then so I met him during an opening of some other gallery, and we talked, and it was like, and then the relationship started from there. Yeah.
And since you started showing in 2013, when you first started
really showing in 2000, I'd say 15.
2015.
Yes.
You started showing.
This has really been going on very quickly. It's just, I guess I'm always, Paris is great because you have so many things going on and you can be able to maneuver around very quickly. So, I just go, I have so many, there's some kind of network, because when you're talking as an artist, there's definitely the networking part of it, which is also part of your work. And so this I've been building, I'd say I've been building this since 2013.
Yes.
Slowly. So it's 2015 when things really start, being noticed. Your work starts, you start showing your work, people get noticing it. But since you're already in some kind of network, it's a bit faster than when you really haven't had any relationships with anybody.
Yes.
So for me, this works through going for exhibitions, going to the museum, sharing my work, sharing the work of others on social media. I love sharing works from other artists also, because I think at the end of the day, if you don't have traditional media talking about your work or your works, then it's just amongst ourselves. It's much easier to deal with social media to talk about. I could talk about your work, and I'd be sharing it with people around me. Some could be clients, some could be friends, some could be collectors of artwork.
Yeah.
And then that, it's easier that way. So I think that's basically how it's been working out for me. Yeah.
So you engage a lot in social media?
I engage a lot in social media, online and offline.
Yes.
Yeah. That's why I really like the way you're doing it, because that's part of it. At the beginning of this year, I used to do I think it was maximum 2 minutes presentation of an artist in their studio. That was really fast. I had 3 questions. No, not 3, but a few questions.
Yeah.
And the idea was, it was like Snapchat, So I had 4 seconds to ask the question, and you had 4 seconds to answer the question. So I'd be adding up 4 seconds to make up the 1 minute and 30 second interview. So that was really fun. But it also, it creates relationships, honestly, I think it will be hard for me to ever forget you now. We went and ate some chep.
Yeah.
That's part of it.
Yeah.
And then, drinking tea, have an interview, just seeing how you work. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's part of networking, I think.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
It is true. Some good relationships have come out of this, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of you selling your work, with the relationships that you have with the galleries, are they exclusive relationships in that you can't sell your work independently, or are you allowed to sell your work independently from your studio if you want to?
I can sell my work from my studio,
Mm-hmm.
but I use the same conditions as the gallery, so you won't be getting any reductions from me because you're buying stuff from my gallery. I have the same prices in the gallery as in the studio, but I have a privilege to sell my work. I put more privilege on selling my work in the gallery than in my studio, because my studio is basically my working area. I don't have people walking into my studio. In fact, I don't think I've ever sold any of my works in my studio. There's a possibility, but for now I'm selling more in the galleries than in the studio. Yeah, that's why actually I haven't even had any interviews at home. I've only had one.
Really?
Yeah. and often just have it elsewhere, not in my studio.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm very privileged. Thank you.
But you're coming from so far, I was like,
Yeah,
I mean,
true.
Yeah. I'm not going to tell you, okay, let's go do it in the cafe.
Can you imagine this setup in the cafe where we were just eating? Right.
And I didn't have an exhibition running right now. The last one in Paris ended a week ago.
Okay.
So we could have been able to do it in a gallery.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It sounded better for me here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you remember when you sold your first piece and what it felt like?
The first piece of this work was sold at the auction.
At the auction?
Yeah, at the art auction.
Which art auction? The same one where Mrs. Cooper saw your work?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because I had two works. That was a particular one for me because it was sold at the auction, but I wasn't there. I couldn't stand being there to see people, lifting their hands, whatever, or calling. But I had a friend who was there, and I didn't know he was there. So he calls me. I was yet again at another opening, and he calls me and tells me, "Wow, your work has really gone, and it's really gone well. It's gone well for you." I was like, "Oh." So I tell my wife, Celine, my work's been sold, and it's really nice.
And that's interesting with the auction because usually I'm assuming that particular piece went into auction directly from you.
Yeah.
Okay, because usually you'll find works of art in the auction on the secondary market.
Yeah.
So how did that happen?
It's a new market in Paris, I guess, because you have auction houses, but it's not only in Paris. It's an international thing that's going on, where you have auction houses bringing in contemporary African art for auction, for a different public, for different collectors who aren't necessarily aware or used to seeing contemporary African art. So they are, they have like this offers for any artist who wants to bring in their work for auction, to bring it in, and then if it goes well and good. If it doesn't, then well, that's an auction. That's that's the game. But for me, it was very important because I wanted my work actually to enter into some kind of classification as far as international artworks are concerned. Because now when you go to something like Art Prize, you can find the ratings of my work. That was very important for me because when you're starting out, at times you're not really sure about how much your work is worth. But this was like a foundation, a starting point, where you know that someone who's really interested in collecting your work, they'd be ready to pay so much for it. So that gives you an idea of how much your artwork actually should cost or could cost. Yeah.
So it's setting a baseline for the market value of your work.
Yes. For me, it was very intense because it's a do or die situation. It either sells because it's the first public sale that I had. So either it was sold, and so that gives you the baseline, or it's not, and you're back to square zero. Not even back to square one. You're back to square zero, where you still don't know. But for me, it worked out very well, better than I expected, actually.
Let me be cheeky. What year was that?
That was this year.
This year?
Yeah.
Okay, so how much did it go for?
In euros, the small pieces each went for 1,600 euros.
That's decent. For small, what size? When you say small, what size?
It was 30 by 40.
30 by 40 inches.
Yeah.
That's very good. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's a really good...
So there's that one. The other one was 50 by 50.
Yeah.
It was slightly bigger. Both went for the same price. But the interesting thing was that it's people who I don't know. So they saw my work somewhere online or in the catalog, and you had all these people, bargaining for it, and I was like, wow, that's, as an artist, to some extent, there's the art, there's the human side where you're trying to express yourself, and then you make your artworks. But then there's still this other human side which wants some kind of recognition, and this recognition is somehow, it's an economical recognition. So it's somehow fulfilling to know that your expression actually touches somebody else to the extent that they're ready probably to pay for it, to buy it.
Yeah.
So that was really good. The other day I sold a big piece, which was 70 by 100. To someone who also just walked into the exhibition and completely fell in love with the art piece. And she told me, because I met her later, she told me that she hasn't bought an art piece for several years. And she walked in, and this totally top. It was shouting at her, this is me. And she couldn't resist it. And I was like, wow, that's really good, because it's very it's a satisfactory, how do I say that?
It's satisfying.
It is satisfying,
Yeah.
Simply.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And I'm so much happier for the person who takes this work home, because it's also fulfilling for them. And I guess that's what my work is. That's what I want my work to do, to have this fulfilling effect. Not just not just the idea that I'm investing, there are all these art collectors who will be investing in your artwork or whatever. But it's someone who's actually buying the artwork so that she can be able to have some kind of, positive therapy on themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's fun for me. I'm so happy for them.
Yeah. How often do you enter these auctions?
That was the first one. Probably there's another one before the end of the year.
Okay.
By the same auction house.
Yeah.
We have this, this nice relationship with them now. Some of them have become my friends.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's excellent. Okay, so you talked about getting that validation in terms of someone actually buying the work. What about institutional validation? Do you feel like getting that validation from the art world, is that something that's important to you?
I guess so. Not I guess so. Yes.
Yeah.
It is. It's some kind of institutional validation. I think that's also very satisfying for me. But I'll be looking forward to taking part in more, like international fairs for this kind of effect. Probably next year, because it's some sort of challenge, actually, some kind of challenge to your work, to how other people perceive your work. I'm looking forward to that also. Yeah.
Are there any specific art fairs you know that you're going to be in? Or?
Next year?
Yeah.
I'll definitely be at the 154. I'd be looking forward to some, like Art Basel. Probably some fairs in Paris, Accra, next year. Yeah. At Paris.
Yes.
At Paris also.
Yeah.
And I'm open for any other.
Yeah.
Of course. When will I be at the Venice Biennale?
Venice. Oh, yeah. That would be amazing.
We have our interview at the Venice.
Yeah. When you get there, I'll meet you there. Yes.
No, you'll also be showing.
I will as well.
Yes.
Yeah, we can interview each other.
Of course.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. What would you say has been your biggest challenge today as an artist? And then how did you overcome it?
Biggest challenge? I think my biggest challenge has been the networking. Because it could, it's never evident. It's kind of closed. So you never know how you're supposed to talk to somebody. So, well, I'm just myself, so whatever. But it's trying to learn trying to learn the ropes of the work, trying to know what's going on, what's important for me as an artist in terms of the networking, even like for the fairs, which one should I go to, which one should what am I supposed to do? Coming from a graphic design area where you're working with companies, so you're just applying for jobs and then you have it or you don't, then, well, you just have a reply and you know that it's going to happen or not. In the art world, you never know, because you're working, you're creating, and then you never know who would want to look at it. You don't know how you're going to present it without obviously looking pretentious. It's a do or die. I kind of find it to be like a do or die situation, where it's working for you, well and good, but then you still have so many examples of people who've been struggling for years and years and years, and it hasn't worked out for them. And you're like, okay, so what can I learn from it? Could it be mistakes that they've made that I don't want to repeat, or is it just luck, or what is it? You never know. There's no manual to this thing.
Yeah, I know. Relatively speaking, you've only really been in the art game for quite a short period of time. But what would you say has been your biggest success so far, and how did you achieve it?
I think it's the different relationships that I've been able to build out of this. And then I've also discovered a lot of different new artists. I've actually met some artists who I only used to see in catalogs that I had and I dreamt of seeing.
Yeah.
And then some of them have become my friends, and it's really interesting. It's fun. And it's definitely fun to go for openings and and enjoying I think it's the relationships, I think. Yeah. The human relationships.
Yeah. What would you say that success in the art world means to you?
I think to me it would just be having the possibility to express myself as best as I can in the best conditions possible, and just remaining happy and myself. Yeah, because I think I'm kind of jealous about my happiness. I want to live happy.
What? You're jealous about your happiness?
Yes. I don't want anybody to take away my happiness.
Okay.
So I got it. I keep it jealously. Does not exist in English. I got it jealously.
Fiercely.
Fiercely. Yeah, that's a better word.
Yeah.
Fiercely jealously. No, that doesn't exist.
I'm too stuffed to be laughing like this. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, that's interesting. So success for you means being able to express yourself through your work, how you want to express yourself freely, and being able to guard your happiness so that nobody can steal it away from you.
Yeah. I want to be happy.
If you could go back to 2005 when you graduated, and speak to yourself back in 2005,
yes,
what advice would you give the younger Evans about going forward in his art career?
Move to Paris or London or New York, somewhere bigger, because even as I was graduating and leading up to my graduation, the professors that I had, the teachers that I had, the workshops that I had, everybody was asking me, what are you doing here? You should be in a bigger city. Your work is based on an urban setting in a big city. That's where you should be. I mean, I don't regret even 1 second the time that I spent in the south of France. I do not, because it was so much fulfilling in so many other ways. But for me to live, this adventure that I'm living today, it had to be in a place like Paris. Yeah. But it's not a regret.
Yeah.
It's just, I'd advise that Evans to move to Paris. But probably he wouldn't have accepted because he had other stuff, like his wife today hadn't finished school.
Yeah.
She hadn't finished the art school. So he'd had to make some sacrifices, of which probably he wouldn't be enjoying today. Yeah, I think I'd still remain in Toulouse.
Okay, what if it was a young man who'd come to you now for advice after graduating from art school? What advice would you give?
I think I'd tell them to be adventurous and just to dare. Yeah, no holding back. As my mom always used to tell me, or as she still says, I think, life is not a rehearsal. You just live it once. So you just have to live it fully. Yeah, so no holding back. There's so much to offer in the art world, but you just have to you just have to be more observant, more curious, more outgoing, more open, and yeah, no holding back. Yeah, I think so. Do you think that's good advice?
I think it's great advice.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome
for your time.
It was my pleasure.